In this video, we'll be learning how to integrate AWS Cognito authentication inside our application. Here we'll be integrating with our Vite React application and also will be verifying the token in our backend using JWT access token to verify whether the user is authenticated or not from our Node.js Express backend. We'll be learning how to use email password provider as well as Google OAuth provider. So let's start how to integrate this inside our application. So here I am on my AWS console. Depending upon your region choice, you can select any region upon your choice. I have selected AP South 1 Mumbai. Here inside the search box, just search for Cognito. Click on that. As it say that AWS Cognito provide free cost up to 10,000 multi-active users. If you have more than that, it will start charging you, but it's free to try. From here, you can either click here, get started for free in less than 5 minutes. First, since we are making a React application and our React application is single page application, so we'll be selecting this and then we need to give our name. Let's name it as Auth React app. Here we need to select that what are the configure options we want to give. For this, I'll be selecting email, username. You can select phone number if you really need those, but in our application we don't need it, so I'm not selecting it. Here we need to choose the attribute like we'll be asking the user to provide their email, their full name, and if you want you can add any other attribute. We can also ask their profile picture if they want to provide. So these are the attribute, and here we need to set our return URL, means which URL it's going to return after our authentication is successful. So like here it says that options in sign-in identities are required and can't be changed after app is created. So if you think that some attributes are not required and you are selected, then make sure to unselect it. Otherwise, it will be difficult to remove it. Here, since we are using React application and will be running it in Vite, here we can just add our return URL as localhost 5173 as it's we are going to be running the Vite application locally. Let's just create user directory. Now here it's giving us the code that we'll be requiring to add inside our React application. For this, let's just create a React application and then add this code. Here, let me just make a new directory, Cognito or tutorial, and inside this folder, we'll be creating a Vite application. For this, we'll just use pnpm create Vite. Let's name the project as Frontend React app. Here we'll be using React and let's use JavaScript for this. Here inside our frontend application, we have the default React application. Here inside our new terminal, we'll open the folder Frontend React app. First, we'll be installing all the packages using pnpm install. And now we can simply run pnpm dev. It is running in localhost 5173. Now let's access this website. It is the default Vite React website. Now our website is ready. We can just copy this code. Like we need to install this packages like OIDC client TS and React OIDC context. Here just open a new terminal inside our frontend React app folder. Here we'll be using pnpm and install all the packages that are required. Then it's simply copy pasting. Here we'll be using provider, so we can just copy this config and inside our src main.jsx. Here after this line number 5 we can just paste it. Here we need to have our app component between our auth provider so that we can access the auth provider anywhere inside our application. Just copy this and our app should be inside our auth provider. We have this Cognito config and our auth provider. So that means that inside anywhere in our app, we can access the auth provider. And now we need to just add it inside our app.jsx. Here we'll be removing this basic UI. We can do one thing, we can just copy the full app.js code and remove and paste it here. Here we need to provide the logout URL. We can just make it for now localhost 5173 slash signout, and we'll be also requiring the Cognito domain. Now after going to configure, here we are getting this Cognito domain. We need to just copy this and paste that here. This domain was not available when we are setting up, but now it's available. Just save this. Now we'll find the UI got changed. Now as you can see that the UI got changed. If we try to sign in, it's taking us to this page where we'll be entering our username and password. We'll be able to sign in. Here, let's try to create a new account. Here we need to enter our profile picture, URL, email address, name, password, and everything. This sign up form is not created by me, it's created by AWS by default. Let's just create a new account. Let's name it as tester. Here we'll be requiring some profile picture URL. We can just copy some basic URL and paste it here. For email address, we can just use a temporary one for now. We can provide any name. Here we need to provide a password. Let's also enter the password. Now let's sign up. Here we use temporary mails to get the verification code. Now here we have got the verification code. Just copy this code and paste it here and confirm your account. And now we are getting redirected to this website, localhost 5173. We are getting redirected to this website because we have set the return URL to localhost 5173 and it is providing our access code. Here this is our ID token. This is our access token and our refresh token. This token are basically the JSON web tokens that will be passing to our backend to verify that we are now authenticated and we are your app user. Here our data gets stored inside our session storage. This is the same data that we are seeing here, and we don't need to worry about managing the token by ourselves. AWS does everything for us. Now, for having backend authentication, we need to enable one more thing here inside our login pages. Here currently we are having OpenID Connect scope. You need to just edit it. Here in our scope, we need to also require this AWS Cognito signin.user admin. And here we can also add our sign out URL, like it will be slash sign out, and just save the changes. Now if we try to sign out, we are getting redirected to this. If we refresh, it's not showing anything. And if we also try to get inside our session storage, you'll find that we don't have anything. Now let's learn how we can validate our user JW token in our backend and allow access to some secret user specific endpoint to that user who is authenticated. So for this I have created separate folders, like this was for our front-end React app, and now here we are going to be creating one more folder. It will be our backend node app. Here we'll open one more terminal. We'll go to backend node app. Here we'll be first initializing the folder, and then here we'll be requiring some packages, like first we'll be using pnpm add AWS SDK Cognito client provider course and express. Let's install these packages. Now all the three packages are installed. Here we'll be creating a very simple express server. First let's make a file, server.js. Here first we'll be importing express and course, and then we'll just specify app is equal to express and just use course and express.json, and then we can start writing our endpoints like app.get slash our root endpoint. Here we'll pass request and response. We'll just return res.json message hello server is running, and then we'll just serve the port using app.listen. Here, let's run it on port 4000, and then we can just add console.log server running in port 4000. Now we can just start our application node using nodemon. We are using ES6, but we have not yet specified that. Simply modify the package.json, just use type module.js. Now our server is running on port 4000. If we try to access localhost port 4000, here we are getting the message, hello, server is running. Now let's create a secret endpoint that only our authenticated user can access. For this, first we'll be creating a config folder. Here we'll be writing the logic for Cognito. Let's name it as cognito.js. Here we'll be writing all the Cognito token verification logic. First, we need to import this package Cognito identity provider client for our client Cognito identity provider. Then we'll be requiring to pass our region. Our app region was AP South 1. We can simply pass that AP South 1. Here we'll be having a const Cognito client variable where we are going to be calling Cognito identity provider client, and we are going to be passing our region, and then we can just use export default Cognito client. And now we'll be accessing this Cognito client inside our backend node server. For verification, we are going to be creating one more folder. This will be our middleware folder. Here, let's write auth.js. This will be our middleware to identify whether our user is authenticated or not authenticated. You will be importing two packages. First package will be get user command from AWS client Cognito identity provider, and then our Cognito client that we have created and exporting use inside our cognito.js file. And now from here we are going to be starting to write the logic for our middleware. Here we'll be creating another function authenticate token. Here we'll be passing the request, response, and the next callback. Here first we'll create a auth header variable and get all the authorization header that are passed from in our request, and then we are going to be splitting our authorization header. Our header will be inside the second part, so we are splitting it using space and we are selecting the second value, and then if token is not there, we are going to be simply sending access token is required. If token is present, we need to start validating. So for this, we'll be using try catch. First, we'll create a command variable. Here we'll be calling the get user command, and here we need to pass the access token. The access token will be the token that the user is passing from the authorization headers, and then we need to get the data. For that, we are creating a new variable const result, and here we'll be storing the result that we are getting from cognito client.send after sending the command, and then we'll be just storing all the other attributes. It will be inside result.user attributes, and we can simply pass all those data inside the request.user variable for to the next callback function that has been passed in our middleware, and then we'll just call the next function. In case of any error, we'll just print token verification failed and will return invalid or expired token. So this was our auth.js middleware. Here we can have a secret endpoint where we are going to be using our authenticate token middleware to verify whether the user is authenticated using AWS Cognito or not. For this, let's just import authenticate token from our middleware auth.js, and here we are going to be creating another secret endpoint. This will be slash secret, and here we'll be passing our authenticate token middleware, and then we'll be passing the request and response. Here, if token is valid, in that case we'll be getting the request.user variable that we are passing. We can simply return that like return res.json, and here we'll be passing the user as request.user. This user we are passing from the authenticate token, this one. Now let's test this endpoint. It will be slash secret. If we try to access this endpoint slash secret, in that case we are getting error access token required. Now let's pass an access token for passing headers. For testing our API, I'm using Eco API. Here we'll just create a new HTTP request. It will be get request. We can just copy this URL and paste it here. Inside our headers, we'll pass authorization. We can pass any value as our first value, like let's pass bearer, or you can pass any value, it doesn't matter because we are going to be splitting and taking the second value. Here, let us just sign in. This is our access token. We need to copy this, and now we can paste that here. Let's try to access this. Here we are getting token does not have required scope. It means that we have not yet modified our quick setup guide, like we have changed our scope to AWS Cognito sign in user admin, and that thing we need to also do it. Like now the scope has been changed, we need to use this scope. So for that, inside our main.jsx, here our scope will get changed. This time it will be this. For getting this, we need to first log out and then sign in again. Now let's copy our access token and let's try to add this key and try to send the request. So this time we are getting all the data. It's giving us the email verified, picture, subscription. So this is how we authorize the user in our backend by passing the access key from our frontend. Now we need to also call this from our React application. For this, we'll be just sending a GET request and passing our access key directly instead of calling it from some API clients. Inside our React application, for this we'll be requiring useState and useEffect. We are already importing auth. With auth, we can get the access token like this, auth.user.access token. Here first, we'll be having a hook that will be secret and set secret. This secret will be the secret that we are sending from our backend response. We'll be storing that data inside this secret variable, and then we'll be calling our backend function using useEffect. So for this, we'll use effect, and if auth is authenticated and auth.user has access token, it means that we should be authenticated and we should be having our access token. In that case, we'll be fetching our backend secret endpoint, and inside our headers, we'll be passing authorization, bearer, and our user access token, and we'll be getting the response. And if there is data, we'll be storing that secret data. In case of any error, we'll just print it on console that error on fetching secret, and our dependency will be on auth.user, auth.is authenticated, and auth.user.access token. So now, depending upon this dependency, it will call this function inside useEffect and try to load this secret data. We need to also display that secret data if we are having it. Here we'll be also using pre-tag. If secret is there, if secret value is there, in that case we'll be just using json.stringify our secret value that we are having. Else we'll just show loading like this. And now let's try to refresh this. Now you can see that we are also getting the secret variable like our username and other attributes that we have. If we try to reload this site, it just show the loading screen, and then it sends a request to slash secret, and we got our response, and it's also displaying that response. And now we are successfully logged in using email password method. Now let's learn how we can also sign in using Google OAuth. For Google OAuth, we need to visit this option, social and external providers. Here we need to add another provider. This will be Google. You will need to be adding the client ID, client secret, authorized scope, and the attributes that will be getting from Google. We need to map that. So for this, first we need to create a new project inside our Google Cloud Console. If you already have an existing project and want to link with that, you can also use that option. Inside your Google Cloud Console, you need to create a new project. For this, just click here, and from here you need to select the new project option. Let's give the name of the project like AWS Cognito Auth. Let's create this project. It will take some time to create. Now we can select this project. Here we'll be also using the search box and search for credentials. This one, select it. Here, first we need to create a OAuth consent screen. Let's create that. Click on Get Started. Here we need to provide the app name. Our app name will be AWS Cognito Auth app. Add your support email. Click on Next. Now, if you are creating a production app, you should always select external. If you want to test it internally within your users, in that case, you should be selecting internal. So for this, I'm selecting external, click on next. And here also we need to provide our email address. Just paste that, click on next, I agree and continue. Just click on create. Here our OAuth configuration screen got created. Inside audience, currently it's in testing stage. That's not a problem. Inside our clients, we need to create a client, but we'll do that later on. But inside data access, we need to add our scopes. For this, we'll be using user info and user profile. Only these two things are more than enough. We don't need anything else. Just save it. And now inside our verification center, currently verification is not required because we have only added very limited scopes. And now inside our client, we need to create a new client. It will be a type of web application. It will be our React Cognito Auth app. Here we need to add authorized JavaScript origin. Our origin will be our localhost site. Just copy this. For now, let's don't add any redirect URI. Just click on create. And now we have got our client ID and client secret. And inside our add identity provider, we can paste that. First will be our client ID. Let's copy and paste it, and then client secret. Copy and paste it. Here we need to pass the authorized scopes. Here we need to pass the scopes that we have selected, like it was user info.email and user info.profile. And then we need to map. Currently we'll be mapping the profile picture from our Google to Amazon one, and then email with Google email with the Amazon one, and names already state in name. So this is our attribute and this is Google attribute from where we are going to be taking the data. Now we can just add our provider. Here we have done all the setup. Now username will come from our subscription ID from Amazon Cognito when we are creating our client. Now here we need to also add our OAuth response redirect URI that we are not added. Like when we start our login, click on sign up, will be redirected to AWS Cognito page, and from there, if we select Google, it will, after Google sign in, it will redirect back to AWS, and from AWS it will redirect back to our website. So for this we need to provide the redirect URI. This is our Cognito domain. We can just copy this domain and paste it here. Here we need to add one more part. This will be slash OAuth slash ID response, and this will be our redirect URI because AWS Cognito will redirect back to this URL. And let's just save that now. Now we have set up our Google OAuth client. Here in our React application, we don't need to do anything, but inside our login pages, we need to just edit. Here currently identity providers is selected to Cognito user pool. Here we are getting the option for Google. Let's just select this and we don't need to do any changes here. Just click on Save Changes. Now, if we try to sign out and I'm refreshing the application, if we try to click on sign in, here we are getting the option as sign in with Google. So let's try this with a Google account. So here let's just open localhost 5173. Let's try to sign in. And this time we are going to be signed in using Google. Select the account. Here it is basically showing like this. Just select the account. Here it is saying that it will be using our name and email address. Click on continue. Now as you can see that here we are getting redirected to this website. This is our access key. This is our ID token, access token, and this is our secret. This time it's also providing us the image that we have, and we can use this image inside our profile UI. Now we are getting all the attributes that we had mapped from Google to our Amazon attributes. We are getting all of them. So in this way, we use AWS Cognito authentication to allow users to sign in using email password and Google OAuth. This was not a project, but a basic introduction how you can use AWS Cognito. In our next video, we'll try to create a project with this. But for now, this is the end of this video. If you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe. If you face any difficulty, make sure to comment it out. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.